Welcome to the She Did It Her Way podcast, where it's all about making the ultimate leap from your 9 to 5 and building a business and life you love, all while doing it your way. I'm your host, Amanda Boleyn. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the She Did It Her Way podcast. I am so excited to welcome a previous guest back on the show, the lovely Christine McAllister. Welcome back. So good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And I am so excited to have you on today to chat about I'm kind of like stumbling over my words here because I'm like, my brain is telling me to go in all different directions. And the last time you were on the show, we talked about your entire journey and your story about like replacing your income and quitting your 9 to 5. And you gave so many good nuggets there. So that is episode 372 for anyone who wants to check that out. And I believe that was February of last year. So actually it's been quite a bit since you've been on this show, which is crazy. It feels like yesterday.
I know. Well, it was pre-pandemic. So, we were riding high at that time.
Yes, that is true. And I know like some things have kind of shifted in your world. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But the reason why I wanted to have you on today is because I have spent a few episodes talking about like how to start a podcast to leverage and grow your business, inviting guests on solocasts, all of that. So like how to start. You, my friend, are the queen at teaching people strategies and tactics at being an exceptional podcast guest. And I remember when you came on my podcast show last year, like I got this incredible, I think it was tease at that time, because you've sent me like a few other gifts since then too. But I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing, so thoughtful. And you just do podcast guesting so incredibly well. And I know that you can share your stat of like how many podcasts you've been on in a matter of time, which is a lot. And so this episode, for anyone who's tuning in, Christine's going to walk through some of the things that she teaches students how to get on podcast shows to grow your business and why it is important to create a game plan to get on other podcast episodes. So I'm going to shut up and I am just going to let you share your story. So like introduce yourself high level for those who who don't know who Christine McAllister is. And again, it's episode 372 that you can catch her initial one. And then we're going to spend the bulk of the time talking about like podcast guesting and the importance and how to get started.
I love it. Thank you. I'm super honored to be back. This is one of my favorite things in the world. So thank you for the opportunity. I love this community and I love what you're doing. And I love you. So This is great. So I am a business coach. My company is called Life with Passion, and I help impact-driven entrepreneurs to go from best kept secret to like go-to person, right? And to make 6 figures and beyond, doing what they love, really, really leveraged in just 10 hours a week. So I help service providers like coaches, consultants, VAs, and OBMs. They know that they're good at what they do, but they don't have all the clients that they want. And so I come alongside and help them have more impact and income. And it's my life's work and I love it.
And you're so good at it too. That's amazing. Okay. So tell us about your podcast guesting journey and how did you get started? And then when did you realize like you were on to something that you're like, wait a second, there's something here.
So I had thought about going on podcasts about the time I started this business. 2015 as a way of growing my reach. And a friend of mine from the program I was in at the time gave me a pitch, an example, and I promptly put it in my downloads folder and left it there because I was intimidated. I was like, I don't know how to do this. It's new, right? So of course I was like, I'm not going to do it because it's scary. And about a year later, somebody reached out to me. I was guest posting at the time. So I was having some success. I'd been on like the Today Show blog. I'd been on HuffPo a few times, had some stuff on Thrive Global, like all these different places. But I had somebody reach out to me and invite me to be on their podcast. And I was 8 months pregnant with my rainbow baby. And I was in labor and delivery. I've been sent to labor and delivery triage for additional monitoring. So from one of my regular appointments, they were treating me with kid gloves because, I wanted to have healthy baby and everybody was anxious. And so they sent me to the hospital and I realized when I was laying there in the bed that it was going to be time for my podcast interview before they discharged me. And so they had already put on all the monitors. The baby was okay. And I'm laying in my hospital bed and I said to the nurse, like, everything's fine. I'm okay. can we just turn off all these beeps? And can you give me the room for 20 minutes? Because I really want to honor this commitment. So she was like, okay, weirdo.
Like, okay, what the heck, woman?
Yeah. And she left. I was like, you can watch me. The monitors are hooked up out there at the nurse's station. And so I had this conversation with this woman, a small podcast. I loved it. And I realized that if I could have super fun conversation in that environment for my hospital bed when I'm dealing with like anxiety and PTSD and all these things, heavily pregnant, then when after my baby was born, this could be a whole lot more fun. So I decided to start proactively pitching because now I knew that what was on the other side was a really fun one-on-one conversation that was super easy. All I had to do was answer questions, right? I do that all day long as a coach. I've got this, And so I started to kind of pitch the people who were in my world that I was connected to. Maybe I listened to their podcasts, maybe some of my friends did. And it became a really fun game for me. It became a really fun game to like find podcasts that were like the ones that I'd been on and to listen to them and to find out whether I like this person and want to follow them and would want to have a conversation with them. And so along the way, I developed like my own method of pitching, my own method of showing up, my own method of like making the host my friend. And what I found is that this was just what came naturally to me, but I heard so often, "Whoa, thank you. Oh, that's so great. Like no one's ever asked me that before. Or no one's ever done this for me before." And I was like, really? It's so easy to be a good human. What is wrong with people? So I think the moment that I realized that it was a thing was there's this podcaster. His name is Jeff Brown. He's a big podcaster. He has this show called Read to Lead. And so when my book came out in 2018, he had me on. And my parents lived in Nashville at the time. So on one of my trips down there, I said, "Hey, would you let me take you out to lunch? I'd love to meet you in person." It was such a great conversation. And he was like, "I don't leave the house very much, Christine, but for you, I will." And so we met up, I took him out for sushi. And he said to me, I was just at one of the big podcast conferences and I was asked to give a presentation on what it is to be a great guest. And I basically just took your process and I shared it from the stage. He was like, "I have done hundreds of interviews and I can count on one hand the number of times that people have done what you've done." And I was like, "Thank you."
Oh my gosh.
And so, I continued to just do it for myself. Because a lot of the time I would get an objection from my audience when I thought about teaching it that was like, "I'm not ready." And so I just kind of believed them and went, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing my thing. But really last year I leaned into like, no, this is something that anybody who wants to sell something can do because if you want someone to pay you money, you should be able to talk about it for one other person to one other person for free. Like the end. That's all this is, And it's been such an incredible way to like expand my network. I've made over $100,000 directly from being on podcasts from clients coming to me. I've made some amazing friends like you and people all over the world because of this incredible medium. And I'm just so grateful for it because it is a one-to-one conversation that then gets shared with a bunch of people.
It's amazing, right? Like, and I love how you said turning it into like thinking about it like a game. So tell us more. Okay, you're thinking about, because what I'm thinking about, and I can hear voices, right? Is this idea someone's listening and they're thinking, I want to start guest podcasting, but a lot of those initial fears or objections are around like, I don't have time to get started. Who's going to like, let me be a guest on their show? How do I even figure out like who's a good fit? How do I go about that? And so like, just even you sharing about how to turn it into a game that can change someone's mentality. Again, Wayne Dyer, I know you guys hear me say this all the time, but when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And if you're not motivated to take action, how can you change the way you're looking at what you need to do in order to motivate? And I love just the shift of let's make it a game. Let's see, like, can I hit 10 interviews this month, right? To change where you're coming from to get you into action. So I'm not 100% sure where I was going with that. I promise you I'm landing the plane here in just a moment because it took off and now my brain's like, where did I want to go with that? But what do you say to people that are like coming up, I'm not ready. And like, what is the first entry point? Where does someone even start? If they're like, okay, I'm going to do this, where do I get started to make sure that my actions are fruitful?
I think the first thing, just like you said, change the way that you look at things, change the way that you think about things. Like this is the frame. Okay. What I have found, and I'm in a $30,000 mastermind that like bought this framework from me. And I was like, really? Me? Okay. Right. So I'm getting these these external validations that are saying, this is solving a problem that every entrepreneur has, which is like, how do I get in front of more people? Right. And it's always, always a thing. Like this company that runs the mastermind that's doing like $700,000 a month, they're using this to get the CEO on podcasts. And the reason is because they're always, always, always audience growth, always a thing. It's never not going to be a thing. Getting in front of more people who will fall in love with you and want to buy your thing. That is like the essence of marketing and business, right? And so to understand that podcast guesting, and look, you already love a podcast, you're listening to this one, right? To understand that, in my experience, podcast guesting is the fastest strategy to go from cold to sold, faster than any other strategy. And the reason is, think about what you're doing when you're listening to podcasts. Amanda, do you listen to podcasts?
I do. Yes.
What are you doing when you're listening to podcasts? What else are you doing?
I am going for a walk. I am like cleaning up and tidying up. I am, let's see, sometimes I might work out listening to podcasts, but those are the two main things. Like I'm doing something while my brain is engaged while listening to the podcast. Sometimes I have to limit some of my podcast intake because I get too many ideas and then I start wanting to take all of them. So that's where that constraint comes in, intentional constraint.
Yes, I love that. So the thing is that you are, okay, I'm taking a 30-minute walk. Okay, I have these chores that I need to do around the house. I want to use my brain. I want to learn something new. I want to hang out with somebody that I like. I want to see who they're having a conversation with. Like you are in it while you are doing something else that you're using a podcast to pass the time and learn something. Right? It's so different than the way that we use any other form of consuming information. Like on social, your post, your ad, your live, whatever is competing with all the other ads and the scroll and whatever else is going on in their mind. And they're opening it just randomly and then they're closing it. You know, the messages are popping up. Facebook's like a casino. They want to keep you on the platform as long as possible. They make it really hard for you to leave, right? YouTube, you've got all the other suggestions and the ads, and podcast is none of that. Podcasting is just like, it's an in-depth conversation between the host and the guest who they have essentially endorsed to their audience by saying like, I'm having you on. I think you will be a valuable source of information for me and the audience that I have worked so hard to build trust with. So you get to borrow that trust and you get to hang out and you get to be yourself and literally just like sit across the table from somebody. This is the way we're all meeting right now, right? Got my tea. You know, we're hanging out and it's like having a coffee chat with somebody that you like about the things that you love. It doesn't require you to grind out a bunch of content, doesn't require you to learn any tech, doesn't require you to spend any money. Like it could not be easier. And when you can sell yourself on that, then it's like, whoa, this is actually such a strategic way to build my business, build my network, connect with influencers, and I can start small. Because there are 1.5 million podcasts and growing. Like you will never run out of places to pitch.
No, no, you won't.
The end. Does that make sense?
Totally. It's so important that, to get excited about podcast guesting, right? Instead of like, I know sometimes it's easy probably for people to think like, oh, it's another thing. But when you really break it down, it's truly your opportunity to have a conversation about a topic that you know so well. Like, why wouldn't you get excited about it? So can you share, so like pivot, someone's saying, okay, Christine, I'm totally bought in. I know that podcasting, I know that I need to get on other shows. How do I optimize my energy and the opportunity of going on someone else's show? And like, what are the 5 things that I can do to get started?
Okay. So,
because I'm all about that. Like, what are the next best steps? How do we get this easy?
Easiest way to get yourself a list of places to pitch. Ask the people in your audience, in your network, in your community, what they're listening to with regards to your topic. So what are you listening to improve your health? What's your favorite podcast for growing your business? Like you could do this right now if you're not driving. Right? You literally pull out your phone, open wherever you're most active and just throw up a quick post. Put up a quick post and just listen to that, right? I recommend that your first 10 episodes that you pick smaller shows, you know, don't go on Entrepreneurs on Fire or She Did It Her Way first time because you will shorten your life with anxiety, right? And you will probably find a lot too. Right. And so start with people who you can have a real, just authentic conversation with. I recommend that once you get those ideas that you listen to an episode or two, make sure that you like the person, because this is somebody that you're going to be looking to form a long-term relationship with, not just show up on their show. Thanks. Bye. Right. And like never talk to them again. Like you want to form the kind of relationship that they could potentially be referral partners for you. They could help you get on other shows from other podcasters. They could become your super fans, your friends, right? They want to have you back. When you go in with that, it's not from scarcity, it's from possibility. It's like, which of these people do I want to share energy with? Which of these people do I want to write a pitch for? Who do I think I would really like to hang out with? And then craft a pitch that lets them genuinely know that. I really like these things about you. I like these things about your show. I think I can help. I think I could provide a great episode for your people. Tiny bit of research that lets them know that this is not a form pitch that you send out to everyone, because those are the worst.
Those are the worst. And as a podcast host, and I'm sure you can attest to this, you can smell them a mile away. And sometimes they forget to put the correct name in it. And then when I'm like, oh, this pitch wasn't for me. They didn't even put my name there. I'm like, delete, like you can totally tell it. Now, I remember when I got yours, it was one of the things that stood out, and I think I told you this in either our conversation or the last time you came on the show, was that I just so appreciated how, and you're probably going to get to this, is like you spent time and energy asking me how you can be most valuable, and like not only about the content that you share, but like, hey Amanda, is there anything that you're like really focused on at this stage on your podcast? Are you talking about something? Are you in a launch? Like, how can I make sure to like tie that into what you're talking about? And it just felt very genuine from your place as someone who's like, quote unquote, pitching, where I was like, wow, she really cares about my audience. Like, obviously it's a win for her to come on my show, but it just felt really genuine and intentional about, you put the focus on me, not you. And I think that's such an important reminder, because there's so many times pitches come into my inbox and it's all about like the person that they're pitching, and it has little to do with my audience and how it can be of value to them. You guys, the ones listening right now. Yes, you. Because I'm always thinking about that as someone, like anytime I bring a guest on, I'm like, how are they adding value to my audience? Because I want to protect your ears, you know? So anyway, that was a bit of a ramble, but I just want to shout that out. Like, part of that is being, like you said, genuine, and also looking for how can you be of service to that host and their audience. So
yeah, 100%. Thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, it matters. Like, you having me on your show is a big deal, because you are endorsing me. You are paying to have this edited, to promote it, like to your audience. You are saying, hey, this person is worth a listen, right? And most guests do not show up with that in their heads. They're like, no, you should be so lucky. Here I am. Here are my talking points. Go buy my book. Go buy my things. Peace, right?
And I've got, that was one thing that I had to learn as a podcast host, was like being able to sift out that. And there's so many, you know, like it's great. Like if you have a podcast and you have someone that has a massive audience and then they share it with their audience, like that's great, right? Because that helps your growth. But it's also important that just because someone has a massive audience doesn't mean that it translates into value, or they're delivering anything that's like of value to the audience. So that's another thing. I know I'm getting a little off topic. I apologize, Christine. I just get excited.
No, I love it. It's so true. I mean, and this is why it's easy to stand out, even if you have a tiny or non-existent audience, when you show up in this way. And it will open doors for you, like with people so far ahead of you, because you stand out as a person of service, as a person of value, not who's just here for me.
Amen. Okay. So you said, do your research, tap into your audience or your network, and go on social media and figure out what are they listening to. The other thing that I also recommend is you can just go on iTunes and go under new and noteworthy, and then also look there. Cause I like the advice that you said, start with smaller podcasts that are just getting started, because they are less likely they probably don't have as many pitches coming in as, per se, you know, John Lee Dumas's, right? Did I say Dumas's right? Yes. John Lee Dumas, plural. There we go. Yeah. But there's just not as many pitches. So starting there. So research 1. 2 is making sure to do the due diligence of like actually listening to the host and, you know, seeing if you vibe and be in that energy space. And then 3, create or craft a pitch that is genuine. So let's pick up from there.
Yeah. So make it short and easy to read. I like to use bullets. I like to find things that I have in common, show I listen to it, show we're going to be a good fit, share what I'd love to talk, what I could talk on to give the host an idea of my expertise. And like, before you discount, say, I'm not an expert. Again, if you have something that you want people to pay you for, then you are an expert to the people who are going to buy from you. So you're an expert to some people, right?
Exactly.
And, let them know, like you said, that you're in it for them, that you would be honored, that you would be excited. And I think that it just comes across. When you customize the pitch, it's no different than like when you were applying for jobs, like customizing the resume to the job description, instead of uploading the same PDF to every single like job description that comes up that you might be qualified for, right?
Yep.
So if you send a generic pitch, you are going to get a generic response. If you send a customized pitch, you're going to get a genuinely excited response from the right people.
Love it. And then let's talk about, okay, so you engage and they say yes, then you go on the show. Any tips that you recommend as a guest, not only from like the soft skill standpoint, but also the strategic sales standpoint? So how do you get someone of another audience to engage with you beyond the episode?
So I think the biggest thing is show up and be as you as you can be. Right? Like that's a soft skill, but we don't want to attract people into our audience based on like us pretending to be someone that we're not, because those aren't going to be the people that we're going to enjoy working with or we're going to most easily be able to help. Right? So I recommend that you do have a pre-chat with the host where you find out what they're promoting, right? You confirm exactly who their audience is so that you can tell stories and use language that's customized to that audience. Right? So you can overcome objections that are customized to that audience. And you're probably going to be looking for podcasts that have a niche that's similar to yours, of course. So you should be able to speak to that, right? Because you know the pain points, the problems, the objections that your audience has. And then, so it's storytelling, right? Because that's what people remember. And it is giving people one specific way to connect with you afterward. You may have thoughts on this, Amanda. Like recently, I would have said a long time ago, like it's got to be an opt-in. You can build that list. But a lot of what I'm seeing right now is people just saying, follow me on Insta or like friend request me on Facebook, because that's where the bulk of their marketing is happening instead of through email. And so I think it kind of just depends on what your strategy is, but do not wait to pitch until you have an opt-in, until you have a website. Like get in front of people now. And it can be as simple as follow me.
Yes. I'm thinking about even when I used to go on podcast episodes, interviews. I remember I had a few opportunities where I went on some pretty decent sized podcast interviews and I didn't have any sort of call to action. And this was years ago. And looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck? But to your point, like, don't let that stop you from taking that first step. If you don't have an opt-in, if you don't have a Facebook group, get out there still, have them engage with you, go on Instagram. I think like one of the things now, unless it's a specific reason why I'm going on a show, like if someone wanted me to talk about podcasting, I think, I would lead with, hey, check out my free podcast training if you're interested in learning more, right? That's being tailored. Now it's usually, follow on Instagram or head to, shediditherway.com to check out free trainings and different ways to work with. And I think in that case, I look at it as like, okay, making sure that my website is up to date and is it clear on, like, here's how you can work with me. Here's the free trainings, right? But I like that, like thinking through some way and how you want people to engage with you beyond the episode and the interview for sure.
Yeah.
It's so important. Okay. That is amazing. I love the 15-minute prep chat, making sure you're clear on like where you're taking people when you're on the interview. Anything particular that you recommend as like a follow-up after being a guest?
I recommend that you leave a review on iTunes, and I recommend that because that's currency to them that they cannot buy. Like literally, I've been on Entrepreneurs on Fire twice, and both times I got a non-form email that was like in the follow-up that was like, please leave us a review. It would mean so much to us and it would help us have so much more impact. And they have multiple thousands of reviews on iTunes and they still ask every guest individually to leave a review. Like it's that important because they can't buy those.
Yeah.
You know? So if you're going on a smaller show, imagine how much more impact it's going to have for them to see your name come across, having left a review after you went on the show, like an honest review, right? And then send a box of something, then some kind of a gift. Don't send swag from your own company. That's lame. People have asked me that before. And I'm like, no, make it about them, not about, oh, I hope you'll wear my shirt and promote it, you know?
This is a great, like you've dropped so many nuggets around the sales psychology, right? I mean, sales is not about us, but it's about our customer. It's about the other person. It's speaking in their benefits. It's what's important to them. Like what might they want? And so I love that, not sending them swag.
Been asked that before. I won't name names, but no, don't do that. Yeah. I think that it's just important to figure out how you can further the relationship with that person. Treat it like the start of something. Like we had a great interaction. You know that you're going to share it when it goes live. You know that you're going to look for ways to support this person going forward and like keep them a part of your network.
So how many interviews have you done to date?
It's well over 100.
Yes.
I haven't counted since sometime last year. So I'm just like, oh, it's over 100. I don't think it's 200 yet. So we'll just
I'll get it to 1,000. Okay. Then my other question is because I'm like, this is amazing. This is such a great process. How do you organize this? How do you organize what is template? Like, what do you do?
Google Sheet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big, like, just be honest. Like I'm very intuitive, very like, I love to play, you know, I love for work to be play. I get kind of twitchy when you start talking to me about like workflows and KPIs and SOPs, you know, not that those things aren't important, but in terms of the way that I show up best, it's like, it's got to be super simple.
Yeah.
So I just have, you know, I have a Google folder for my pitches because when you do this enough, you will pitch similar types of shows and you can go, this one looks like that one. I'm going to change. I'm going to customize it, but the topics might be the same, right?
Yeah.
So have a folder, Google folder for pitches. I have a Google sheet that's like, here are the places that I pitched. If I get accepted, I like turn the first cell green with the name of it, you know. Did I send them a gift? Did I leave them a review? Like, it's so simple.
Yeah, I love it. Standardize that process and making it simple because complexity is the enemy of execution. And anytime something is robust or like complicated, clunky, you're not going to take action. So right. I love that. I know we're coming up on time here too. So I just have a few last questions. I know that you've like taught people how to do this if they want to do it in like a more formalized way. So I'd love to give you an opportunity to kind of like share what that training looks like and what it is.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a master class that's been super, super popular called 90 Minutes to Book 100 Interviews in 90 Days. And I've been like, honestly, really surprised by the feedback because, well, you can see it on the page. Oh
my gosh. I know. I've had clients go through it and they're like, this is amazing, which is also, again, like reiterates the fact that you know what the heck you're talking about. So yeah. And like you go to and you like learn more about it. I'm like, there's so many videos and testimonials about like how amazing this training is. So anyway, I'll let you continue.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's so fun for me. And I think it really just takes you through every single step of the process. I share my pitch, which I've never shared for like outside of a program for less than $3,000 before, my exact pitch so that you can have a starting point and then like the exact scripts to use to get suggestions for podcasts to be on. There's a bunch of additional techniques for how to identify additional podcasts to be on so that you will never run out. And the whole process of exactly how I've made over $100,000 and counting by being a great guest and by positioning myself.
That is wild. I mean, just the fact like $100,000 by going on 100 podcast interviews and like all of that's included. And I'm just amazed too, like how many people have gone through it and have such amazing things to say about it. And it's just like endless. So perfect. If you guys are wanting to check that out, you can head to, I made it easy. So you can can just go to shediditherway.com/book100. So you can go to that. You can check it out. It lives there. It's the training for Christine. So you guys can check that out there. If you guys are really considering like you want to add podcast guesting to your marketing, to your PR, to your visibility outreach, definitely check it out. I think if you don't do anything with Christine's masterclass, I think I still got a lot out of today's training. So I know that there's like such rich value in it. Anything else you want to share about podcasts? Like if there's only one thing that you could leave us with about being a guest when it comes to podcasting, what would it be?
It's if you're a person who values like human connection, if you're a human who wants to help other humans, right? This method is simply like me taking that value and applying it to podcast guesting. So it's very simple. It's very warm. It's very not salesy. And I share that because like the biggest thing that I can tell you is like, just start. There are literally more than double the number of podcasts that there were a year ago. This is such an amazing time to be entering this space. You are going in front of an audience that already exists. You don't have to build it when you're a guest. You're going in front of someone else's audience and you get to hang out with them in their home, in their car, on their walk, at the gym for like 20, 30, 45 minutes. And you are just going to attract people who will come to you and say like, I literally have had people say, I didn't even know I was looking for a coach. I want to hire you. How can we work together? Or like, I've been waiting for you. I listened to a lot of podcasts and you stood out, right? Because when you show up and you be yourself, and the host will also respond to you differently because of that. And so just do it, play with it, have fun with it, and like know that it's going to help you grow your business too.
Love it. That's amazing. Okay, perfect. So to wrap us up, I like to do some rapid fire questions for every guest. And so for you, what's been one of your favorite books that you've recently read since last time you came on the show?
Ooh, thank you. I am listening to The Body, A Guide for Occupants. It's Occupants by Bill Bryson.
Okay, wait, tell us more.
Good. So
The
Bill
Body?
Bryson, he's a big time author, but he has this book called The Body, A Guide for Occupants. And he has this incredible way of talking about how just amazing our bodies are. Like I learned yesterday that every single cell in our body has a meter of DNA in it. Yes, I know. And so the thing is like, I am one of those people who every once in a while, I'll be like, I totally just take my body for granted. And I know that it's amazing and I'm grateful for it, but like, I want to know more in a inorganic chemistry kind of way, because my brain isn't wired this way. Right. So to have somebody who in a very engaging way breaks down what is amazing about our body, what are the things that are ridiculous about it, that like, how are we still here when we have this? What are the things that are like so cool about it? Every time I listen to this book, I'm like, I'm so grateful. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, super cool. I love that stuff too. Cause it's like your health is your wealth, right? If we're not healthy, if we're not able to perform or, if we don't take care of it, what else do we have? So it's, What are you most excited about for the next, let's go 90 days? What's on your calendar that you're most excited about?
I've just launched a new program and I'm really, I love the community. It's so much fun for me to show up for. And it's so cool to get to walk alongside my clients. And like, it gives me so much energy. My life is very full with like two very young children who are at home all the time. And you probably heard thumping and screaming and dogs barking during this interview. So I guess my mic isn't quite directional enough, but I'll come into Mondays being a little bit like the weekends are my work week, right? Because I'm like, oh, kids screaming. It's exhausting. So Monday mornings, I come in a little foggy and I get on my 11 o'clock coaching call and I'm like, yes, fire. So like this drives me. Right. And it energizes me. And so that's my favorite thing.
Love it. I love it. So amazing. And then what is the best $100 or less purchase one can make in their business?
Ooh.
Aside from your masterclass, your training.
Obviously. Thank you. I'm going to go with a month with you inside.
Oh, Oh, well, thank you. Yes. Elevate University. I love that. For those of you that are tuning in, you're like, what the heck is Elevate University? It is a program, it's a membership, it's 12 months. And it is designed specifically to help you create accountability with what it is that you are doing, even if you're just getting started. So it's really like this playground and accountability and coaching. And we do co-working hours. We have weekly coaching. It's amazing. So like if you're just starting out and you are in your 9 to 5 and you're like, I need to get out, I don't know exactly where to get started, like this is the playground to make it happen. So, oh, thank you. I was actually just thinking that like earlier, it would be perfect if someone's going through the training and it's like, okay, we go through so many now I'm going to get on a little tangent, but promise I'm like, stay with me. I promise this is going somewhere. But like we sign up for all these programs and all these courses and it's like, oh, it either didn't work or it collects virtual dust. And that's like the whole thing with Elevate University is to create that space to say, okay, let's get out of your own way. Let's get stuff done. Let's take action because that's how you get the results that you want. So I was like thinking about that. I'm always like, how, like anyone who's stalled out and can't get into action, I'm always like, come to Elevate University. Like we'll get your butt in shape and get you into action. So
yeah. And like, I just sent a client Amanda's way. So like, I'm saying,
and she signed up. So I'm excited to have her.
Yeah. So it really is like, I believe in it. I, endorse it. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, this was so great. Thank you, Christine, so much. Again, if you guys want to check that out, you can just head to shediditherway.com/book 100. It's also going to be in the show notes. So thank you again for your time and energy. And my friends, until next time, keep doing it your way.
If you enjoyed today's podcast episode, you can head on over to shediditherway.com where you can access the entire vault of She Did It Her Way podcast episodes. And you can also access free trainings and resources all about how to make the ultimate leap from your 9 to 5. And if you enjoyed today's podcast episode, I would be so grateful if you headed on over to iTunes and left a review letting me know what you love about the She Did It Her Way podcast. Until next time, keep doing it your way.